Chapter 2: The Pandavs. Pandav military camp, Kuru Field. The air within the war council tent was heavy and grave, owing to the losses encountered in the battle. The 5 seats designated for the 5 Pandavs were the only ones occupied, but none of the brothers were uttering a single word. The eldest Pandav, Yudhishthir, has now been hardened enough by the sorrows he has met in life, but he too was saddened beyond measure to say any words of comfort to his grieving brother. As the eldest, it was Yudhishthir's duty to protect his brothers, but he had failed there miserably. And the only one he could blame for that was he himself. His brother and closest friends had helped him to build an empire, and he has lost it all owing to his one weakness, his interest in gambling, which his rivals had exploited well. Yudhishthir had only the basic knowledge of the game of dice, and he had thought that it was enough to take on a challenge from his cousin Duryodhan, even when the excellently skillful gambler Shakuni was throwing the dice on Duryodhan's behalf. After all, it was cowardice for a warrior to back down from any challenge, but it had been the worst mistake of his life. One by one he had started losing his possessions on the gamble, first ornaments, then treasury, then courtesans and servants, and finally his kingdom. At each gamble, he had thought he would put something more at stake and win back what he lost. But it was not to be. After losing everything, he had started putting his own brothers at stake, as the head of the family do legally own the rest. But he lost them too, followed by losing himself as well. Then, instigated by Shakuni, he had put at stake someone that was the heart of the 5 Pandavs and most beloved of them all. Yudhishthir broke from these chain of thoughts as he heard his brother Arjun snort, ending a silent weep. He then glanced around at his 4 brothers who were seated symmetrically on both sides of him, Bhim and Arjun to his left, and Nakul and Sahadev to his right. He was grateful for what his brothers were doing for him, even after what misery he has caused them. The handsome twins, Nakul and Sahadev, were technically step-brothers to the remaining 3, but all 4 of them were working shoulder to shoulder now to reinstate Yudhishthir on the throne and bring back his lost pride. Whatever be the outcome of the war, he will forever be indebted to these 4, he knew that very well. The reason for Arjun's sorrows were not unknown to any there. He had lost one of his sons in battle today, Iravan, the son of Arjun and Ulupi, the princess of Naga tribe that lived high in the snowy Himalayas. Once, due to a sin committed by Arjun, he went on a 12-year-long self-imposed exile. It was on this journey that he met Ulupi, and she fell in love with the chiseled, handsome prince, whereafter they consummated their love and Iravan was conceived. After nearly 20 years, Arjun had called upon his Naga son to fight for him in the great war that the Pandavs were waging for their rights. And now, after showing extreme feats of valor and skills for 8 days, the boy was beheaded by a ambush of the Rakshas clan that allied with the Kauravas. The second Pandav, Bhim, the nearly 7 feet tall man with puffed-up muscles and a stomach sunk in like that of a wolf, placed his huge arm on his younger brother, Arjun, and tried to soothe him. "Listen, Arjun. Iravan died a hero. You should be proud of him." "I am," Arjun said, wiping his tears and looking up, "but it's just that I never fathered him properly. I almost didn't care that he existed until this battle. I have been so selfish." "Do not think so lowly of yourself, father," said a voice from near the tent entrance, as Abhimanyu, another son of Arjun, entered the tent. Abhimanyu's mother was Subhadra, the princess of the Yadav clan that ruled from Dwarka. She was wedded to Arjun to bring about an alliance between the Yadavs and the Pandavs. He was an accomplished fighter himself and was still in his battle gears as he walked in. "Iravan was proud to be your son, as am I," he added. "He had no complaint, and so shouldn't you, and rest assured that he will be avenged." He then stopped before his father and further added, "But if you are worried as to who will take his place, let me assure you, father, I am still here, ready to carry forward the baton." "And so am I," spoke another deep voice from the entrance, which made Bhim's face light up a bit. It was Ghatotkacha, Bhim's son, and he was a feet taller than his tall father and bulkier as well. His head was shaved, completely resembling a shiny pot, and dark green tattoos covered his arms, chest, and half of his face. The only adornment on him was a necklace of finger bones. Such style might seem unfit for an assembly, as the one he was in, but it was a legacy from his maternal side. There was a time when the young Pandavs were devoid of friends, protectors, or allies, and were helpless against the persecution of their jealous cousins. After a failed attempt on their lives, they had to run away and take shelter in a forest, which unbeknownst to them housed a tribe of cannibals. It was here that they met Hidimba, one of the cannibal tribeswomen who took a liking to Bhim. As a result, Ghatotkach was born, a half-prince and half-cannibal, and he wielded his dual identity proudly. Bhim stood up and embraced his son, while Arjun was locked in embrace with Abhimanyu. The tent flap lifted, and more people started pouring in as the time for the council was at hand. The first to enter were Prativindya, the son of Yudhishthir, then Sutasam, another son of Bhim and half-brother of Ghatotkach, then came Shrutakama, another son of Arjun and half-brother of Abhimanyu, followed by Shatanik, son of Nakul, and Shrutasen, son of Sahadev. The most surprising fact was that these 5 sons, each from one Pandav, had a single woman as their mother. She was Draupadi, the princess of Panchal, who was the common wife of the 5 Pandavs. Each of the 5 brothers loved her in their own way, although it has been felt that Bhim cared for her the most. It was this woman, this common wife, that Yudhishthir put as the final stake in the cursed game of dice. And what happened to her after that, the thought of it, still makes the 5 of them shudder with fear, shame, and guilt. The Pandavs were fighting for their rights, no doubt, but it is well known that Bhim's main motivation behind waging this war is to avenge Draupadi. After the 5 sons of Draupadi, King Virat of the kingdom of Matsya entered the council and took his designated seat. He was also the father-in-law of Abhimanyu, as his daughter Uttara was wedded to the boy and she was currently pregnant too. Virat, only a bit older than the eldest Pandav, looked at Arjun with sympathy and said, "I am sorry for your loss, Arjun. As a father who had lost 2 sons on the very first day, I understand your feelings more than anyone else." Arjun only nodded at the king with bloodshot eyes full of regret. "But, Arjun," Virat added, "do not let your emotions cloud your valor. Do not let your bow falter." "Don't worry, great king," Arjun replied. "I am not putting down my Gandiv ever again until this war ends or I die. I have been counseled well." He glanced briefly next to him at Gandiv, his huge bow fashioned from rhinoceros bone, with many strings stretched like a guitar between the 2 horns. It was a gift from a group of excellent forgers in exchange for a favor that they needed. Their gifts has been his prized possessions for his entire life, till then. Following Virat, came King Drupad of Panchal, the father of Draupadi and the father-in-law to the Pandavs, and he took his seat, looking crestfallen from the day's loss. Satyaki, the commander of the Vrishni sect of the Yadav clan, came in next, wearing a red turban on his head, typical of Yadav leaders. Then came Chekitan of Kekaya, Drishtaketu of Chedi, and the other commanders of the allies of the Pandavs. Those who had designated seats filled them up, while the others stood making a circle with the seated ones in between. Finally, Drishtadyumna, crown prince of Panchals and son of King Drupad, who had been elected the generalissimo of the Pandav army, came in with an air of authority. He was followed by his elder brother, Shikundi, a lean prince with a thin mustache, a receding hairline and old acne marks on face. "Let's bring this council to order then," Drishtadyumna announced, and immediately Arjun raised his voice, briefly scanning the tent. "Hold on. Where is Krishna? How can we begin without him?" If there was one person other than his family, without whom Yudhishthir cannot imagine carrying out his life, it was the head of the council of Yadavs, Krishna, who happened to be their distant cousin and also the brother-in-law of Arjun. Krishna had been a true friend and advisor for the Pandavs for over 20 years now. He had provided them with courage when they had none. He had provided them with ideas when they had none, and his contribution to Yudhishthir's former rise to power is undeniable. It was first Krishna's idea that with the newly formed marriage alliance with the Panchals, the Pandavs should return home from their life on run. And as a result, their uncle Dhritarashtra was forced to give them a separate portion of the Kuru kingdom to rule, in order to avoid further clash with his Kaurav sons, which can trigger a war with Panchal. The Pandavs established Indraprastha There and Yudhishthira ascended its throne. Soon following the tactics of Krishna and depending on the valor of his 4 brothers, he attained sovereignty and became an emperor. Then his jealous Kaurav cousins arranged for the game of dice and he lost everything. If Yudhishthira can ever again be what he was, he knew that it can never happen without Krishna, but things were different now. Before, the Yadavs were wholeheartedly in support of the Pandavs. However, now their allegiance is divided. While Krishna and Satyaki, with the Vrishni sects, have joined them in battle, the Yadav, Kritavarma with the remaining of his clan, have allied with the Kauravs and fight for them. Krishna, on the other hand, had, due to reasons known best to him, vowed not to fight actively in the battle. He had been chosen by Arjun as his charioteer, owing to his understanding of animals like horses and cows. It seemed a lame and cowardly act on Krishna's part to many. But if not for Krishna's presence with Arjun, the great archer would have laid down his bow forever on the very first day and left the battlefield, pained by the moral dilemma of having to kill his own kin for power. The council fell quiet as finally Krishna entered. He was a dark-skinned, tall, slightly muscular man in yellow robes and yellow turban with a peacock feather adorning it on the top. His eyes were like the shape of lotus petal, and they carried a depth of wisdom, usually unseen in others. He carried no weapons on him except his metal discus hanging from his waist. This discus was also a gift by the same forgers who presented Arjun with his Gandiv bow. Krishna looked troubled as he sat down on his designated seat, closest to the Pandavs. Without any ado, he spoke. "Message from my spies says that the Kauravs met with the grandsire a little while ago tonight. I wonder why." He sighed and added, "The battle is already not much to our favor, and they are planning something more." "What?" Arjun asked, to which Krishna replied, "I don't know. Our army aren't standing a chance against Bhishma." Drishtadyumna said, "His strategy and his divine weapons are killing our soldiers by the hundreds every day. And he seemingly has an endless supply of those weapons." Drupad spoke, given by the Parashuram cult from where he formerly received combat training. "What should we do, Madhav?" Arjun asked, looking at Krishna, addressing him by his other name. Krishna stared down at his own lap thoughtfully and replied, "Contrary to what the commoners like to call me, I am no god, but a man of blood and flesh. I don't have the answer to everything." He then glanced at the others and added, "However, I feel that we need to review our strategy, decide what army formations we may need tomorrow."
To be continued. Stay tuned for the next chapter.